I really wish I had time to learn my language. And I'm going to get to that point. I'm learning like words here and there, but it's just like little bits and pieces, right? And there's just so much to uncover now as I'm trying to navigate where I'm going. But I want to use my academia, whatever that is, my knowledge and stuff and connections to be able to uplift our communities and to start just creating some change. And I know people get so annoyed when we talk about these topics, right? They're like, oh, can you just shut up already? Or like, I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, you're just playing victim. And I'm like, oh, we're not playing victim. This is our reality. That's not a victim minded complex, I guess, mentality. It's not that. And it's so sad. It's so sad to see that. And even when it comes to Lani, that you brought up the hierarchy of things, what's it called, the pyramid. I disrespected Kimberly Crenshaw earlier by saying the color purple of the book, but it's not that one. I don't know which book you were talking about, Lani, but I was like trying to look it up. Is it On Intersectionality or The Racetrack or Under the Black Light?
She's like,
no, I don't know which one. Okay, well, those are some of the books that Kimberly Crenshaw has.
Look, and I have to find it. Like,
I've been looking at, because then there's a critical race theory, but it says that she's the one that edited it. But I don't think she's the one that wrote critical race. Is she?
You know what? I need to
I don't even know.
You know what? I just thought about it. I think it was written by someone else, and they really strongly referenced her in this book.
Yeah. Kimberly,
I'm gonna find this book.
Yes. But when you said like it's white and then you mentioned Asian, right? Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned Hispanics, quote unquote, and Latinos within our just community within itself. Again, I use this very loosely because I don't identify as Hispanic or Latino, but because I grew up in that community, that's what I'm going to use. You can see what's in our community. There's so much privilege that they carry that even if they're brown, they enforce like very racist ideologies, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But there's privilege within being so close-minded and so blindsided by that they don't see that anymore. And it's not positive privilege. But yeah, within the like Latinx community, there's just, even within that, like you can be a white presenting Latinx, or you can be more indigenous person, but there's privilege within just being super blindsided by that and then enforcing those racist ideologies onto other people. And it's, again, not positive privilege, but it's fucked up. And it sucks to see your own people enforce that ideology onto you. Not to make it super dark. But anyways, but going back, I think it's just the work that we do. And like you said, Mireya, there's also privilege within, advocating for these things and talking about it and organizing around it, because a lot of people can't do that as much as they'd want to.
I think just to add on to y'all real quick, and then we'll close in a second, but how you, like, even this podcast, like there's a lot of folks that are struggling and they're out loud and proud in their country, and they can't because they'll get shot or they'll go to jail for speaking their mind, which is crazy. But even then it's like, or they don't have access to technology like we do. That's a privilege, right? But to just add on to what Lani was saying earlier, glorifying trauma, because I do want to make it clear to our listeners that we are not glorifying trauma. A lot of times people will be like, well, the struggle, like being poor and broke made you who you are. And it's like, nah, man, I was really cold and hungry. And it sucked. Like it was very traumatic. It's a part of who I am, but it did not make me who I am. So that needs to be clarified. Another thing is, what was I going to say? When, it's not really, how do I put this? I'm trying to like organize my thoughts real quick. Give me a minute. But when Anita had said we need to listen in order to help. That was another one that kind of stood out to me, because I tend to like, oh, let me help, let me fix, I feel like I want to have all the answers, and you want to do so much, but you only have, realistically, you only have like so much you can do, and you can fill up your plate, and you do get overwhelmed and you do get burnt out, which we talked about in our last episode about burnout. But I was going somewhere with glorifying trauma and pain. I think that was just that it doesn't make you who you are, but you are grateful that you know how bad it was and how you can only go up from here. How Lani was saying earlier, some white man somewhere put the ladder or the bar and said, that's as much as you can do, little girl, right? Or little person. And then you go, you know what? No, fuck that ladder. Like, or fuck that line. Like, I'm going to go beyond and do so much more. I'm going to dream. My dreams are going to be so damn big, because it's like almost like you're dreaming for your ancestors, or dreams that your parents didn't even get to accomplish. Because this was another thing that I was going to say, was being a U.S. citizen. That's a privilege. For undocumented folks, like, it is a struggle, right? I even have aunts, like tias. I have aunties in Mexico or even aunties here, family members who would be like, why don't you just come here the right way? And it's like, and how did you get here, Selena? Like, what the, and it's like, how do you, what? And so, which is mind blowing. And it's usually light skinned Latinx folks. And it's just crazy. It really be your own people that are telling you to come here the right way. When right now I'm in the process of helping my mom get her documents, which I think is ridiculous that she even has to do so. But because of Social Security and so many other reasons, she just feels like scared, especially in the last election when ICE raids were everywhere, especially in Oxnard. There was a lot of ICE raids. And so my mom, or like checkpoints as well. So even that was just like, wow, like I have to watch out for my mother, because I depend on her and the whole family depends on her, and God forbid she gets deported. Like, what are we going to do? And that's family, to have one piece of you over there and one piece of you here. It's just, but, Lani has a question, right? Go ahead, Lani. Then this is going to be, we're going to be wrapping it up in a sec, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Why do you say sorry? No,
don't say sorry.
Take your time. Take your time.
It's internalized sexism. Don't say sorry.
No, I really need to stop saying sorry. For sure. My question was just going back to Anika was explaining kind of like how she was identifying herself as one person and then realized, oh, I'm a whole different person, and then going back, okay, we're at the learning grounds now. Like, how does it feel to like identify as one person and then figure out like I'm a whole different person, and there's not only this about me of how I grew up, but also like there's like a whole different history book I gotta learn now. And that includes the language, that includes the culture, the food, the people, like, just the knowledge, the stories. Like, how does it feel to go from one layer of who you are and then go back down and have to relearn about who you are? And then also to go back to what you guys had mentioned, what you gals had mentioned earlier, of just like saying, when I was a kid, I wanted to be someone else, even though I lived in this space. And then going back to learning who I am now, how does it feel, if you do, to accept, what it is that you are as a woman in your culture, in POC, in this world? How does it feel to finally accept, and is that freeing?
Go ahead.
Oh, you want? Okay, I'll go. For me, I'll answer the first question. The way I felt, I went through like a series of feelings. First, I remember when I was going into this whole realization of trying to find my Indigenous ancestors and realizing, solidifying that, I am Indigenous and stuff like that. I was crying a lot. And I remember crying a lot at night, because it was almost like I was feeling their pain. And it was that realization that I was stripped away from knowledge because of what happened, and I might not be able to learn everything, and I won't learn everything. That's a guarantee. And there was this pain within that. It's like you can't even fully understand who you are because your people are no longer around, or their culture is really no longer around, and it hurts. And you can't really imagine. I can't imagine the way they felt during those times, and how scared they must have been, how scared the women must have been, because there was a lot of violence. There's still so much violence against women now, and predominantly Black and Indigenous women. But I can't imagine the first feelings of that. And going back, I guess really uncovering who I am. There's a lot of pain. I had a lot of sadness, but I also had a lot of happiness and excitement, because I was like, oh, I found home. I no longer feel lost. I no longer have to figure out who I am, because I know who I am. I know where I come from. I now have to do that journey of figuring out like the language, the culture, reading about it, but it's no longer like, oh, I'm confused with who I am. And I feel like that confusion runs a lot within just quote unquote Hispanics and Latinos, because there's so many like, oh, we're labeled white, but we don't look white. Or it's like, oh, but we speak Spanish, but that's not our native language. Oh, we didn't even learn Spanish. We had to learn English. So there's just a lot of confusion within that. But I think not coming back down, but like realizing that it's just, I can't overspeak over anyone who is connected. I have to, of course, like listen all the time and really understand what it is, the space that I'm being part of now. And I feel like I have been a person who has enjoyed listening, but now it's a different experience now. I'm listening because this determines our survival. This determines where the future generations are going to be at, and how I need to really deconstruct everything and decolonize my mind, so I know and I can ensure the survival of my kids, and they know who they are and can carry that on. So this is like survival mode, and also reviving a culture that has been dead for centuries. But then also going back to the second question, coming to that realization that I'm a brown woman and I navigate the world in different ways. And yes, I do have my challenges, but I also have my privileges. I think it's sad that I ever wanted to be someone else that I wasn't, and that I am not. And it's embarrassing sometimes to even say that and mention that to people, but that was my reality, and that's where I come from. That's where all this stems from, right? I was part of that system that got assimilated. I was part of that system that got brainwashed into thinking that whiteness was everything, and it was super glorified and everything. And that just puts into perspective how many of us do get brainwashed within the system, whether we like it or not. And so coming out of that, I'm super happy that I know where I'm at and who I am now, and that I'm getting to learn everything that I need to learn. But it's also sharing that experience with other people, because my experience is my experience, and of course other people are going to experience it differently. Yeah.
Damn, you hit some really good ones. But for me, for me, it was like, just to go back to like when I was at CC, when I was first learning about Native studies and Chicano studies and African American studies, basically ethnic studies. I went through rage, acceptance, and then joy and celebration. So I had rage. I had a moment where, not gonna lie, I hated white people for a moment. And my dad, he's like my adopted dad, and he's white. So that was a struggle for a moment. I kind of stayed away, because it was like, like how you were saying, you have this wound in you, and all this thing that you were like, damn, like, my culture, my language was stripped from me. I didn't even get access to it. My people who look like you and I aren't even in textbooks. It's just like, you learn, oh, you know, slavery and then MLK, and then that's it. We're all good. It's all peachy. And it's like, no.